Hello everyone and a very good evening. You're watching The Money Show on ET Now. This is your daily dose of personal finance news, views and opinions. So here's what we are going to talk to you about in today's episode of The Money Show. And do remember folks, you can always connect with us by writing in on themoneyshow@etnow.tv. That's our email address. You can write in with feedback for the show, for the previous show, for today's show, for any recommendations, and of course, send in your financial portfolio or any personal finance related question, be it on insurance, be it on taxation that you may have, and we will get money experts to answer them. So let's tell you first up on the digital lending bit. Remember, just last week we at ET Now had spoken about the recovery methods being used by several digital lending apps that do tend to give you loans in an easy and breezy manner, but recovery methods adopted by them are pretty harsh and unfair. Now it looks like the RBI has set up a panel. So we'll be talking about this. We'll be talking about the potential actions that the RBI could take. What would it mean for you, the consumer? And we'll also be revisiting that interaction that we had with cybercrime investigator and cybersecurity expert Ritesh Bhatia. Later on the show, we'll be talking to Kostu Belapurkar of Morningstar on which are the large cap funds, the mid cap funds to invest in, and where should you invest in, how much money should you invest. And finally, in our last segment, in our Spend TMS segment, buying assets on auction. What's the care that you should take? Recently, and in fact quite often, SBI conducts a mega auction of house properties that have been seized by them. It gives all of us an opportunity to bid in a price at these auctions. The question, of course, is what's the care that you have to take? So all of this will be discussed on today's episode of The Money Show. Keep writing in. Our email address is themoneyshow@etnow.tv. Meantime, here is some important news that has just in fact come in a couple of minutes ago, and that is with respect to digital lending platforms. The RBI has given a press release saying that yes, digital lending does have the potential to give access to financial products, to financial services, make it fair, efficient and inclusive. However, they have also noticed that the recent spurt and popularity of online lending platforms and mobile lending apps, or what we call as digital lending, has raised certain serious concerns which has wider systemic implications. And against this background, a working group is being set up to study all aspects of digital lending activities in the regulated financial sector. So what exactly is this working group going to do? I think we are joined now by my colleague Priyanka. She has studied this report. Priyanka, just last week we discussed with a cybersecurity expert on how some of these digital lending apps have been, resorting to unfair or harsh loan recovery practices. Is that one of the aims of this working group to essentially try and resolve?
Well, yes, very much, Mubina, because these concerns have been raised quite a lot of times in the last few months. There have been a lot of instances of fraud, as well as instances of high-handed recovery methods leading to a lot of unfortunate incidents. The RBI had, in fact, warned customers as well against, checking what digital lending apps they're using for taking loans as well. So now the RBI has constituted this working group, which will include online platforms as well as mobile apps. And they have said that this working group will study the aspects of digital lending activities in the regulated financial sector, as well as by unregulated players, so that a working regulatory approach can be put in place. Now, what they have also said is that there will be 6 members in this working group, 4 of whom are internal RBI members, and the chairman of the working group will be Mr. Jayant Kumar Dash, who is the executive director of RBI, and the external members are Mr. Vikram Mehta, co-founder of Monexo FinTech, and Rahul Sasi, founder of Cloud SEK. The RBI has also given us the terms of reference that the working group will be looking at, and that includes identifying risks posed by unregulated digital lending, suggesting any regulatory changes, recommending measures for expansion of specific regulatory or statutory perimeter, recommending a robust fair practices course, so that will be important to watch out for, measures for enhanced consumer protection, data privacy, governance of data, etc. So this is what the RBI is looking into. They are, of course, taking this very seriously after the few events that have taken place in the past few months. And RBI has said that this group has been advised to submit its report within 3 months' time. So we will have to watch out for that.
All right, folks, we have seen several cases of high-handed methods of recovery by these digital lending platforms. Thank you, Priyanka, by the way, for that. And now the RBI as well, of course, is taking note of these recent cases. We have seen a spate of suicides as well. In many cases, it has been alleged that it is because of these harsh recovery methods. We hope that, of course, the working group will, get into action, recommend the necessary solutions for the same. But in the meanwhile, it's important that you ensure that you don't fall prey to all of these tactics. And I hope that most of you are trying not to get too indebted. Yes, loans are very easily available. In fact, the whole, the sell point, the USP of these digital lending platforms is that you can get an instant loan. But there are, of course, drawbacks, and this is one of them. So last week, we caught up with Ritesh Bhatia, Cybersecurity Consultant, to help you analyze what digital app really can you trust, what are the permissions as well that you should allow this app, and that was a crucial component as well of all of these harsh recovery methods. So listen into what he had to say.
The digital illiteracy, because the moment when they installed the apps, there was, for any particular loan to be given, there are a lot of KYC has to be done, many things have to be done, and it has to be as per the RBI guidelines, and so which these people didn't know about, because a loan cannot be dispersed in something like 10 minutes. So this was something that they should have thought about. The second thing they should have thought about is like reading the terms and conditions, which these guys also didn't put it up so well. But then these guys told them that, look, for every 5,000 rupees I give, I'm going to take, like, let's say 1,400 rupees as a processing charge, something as a processing fees, and GST and law. So, ultimately what's coming in your hand from that 5,000 rupees is hardly some 2,900 or 3,000 odd rupees. So, but you're taking a loan of 5,000, you're going to be returning 5,000. The third place they went wrong was about the high interest rate. People were charging as high as 36% also. And these people went through it. Now, the cases that I got, I remember a girl calling me up and telling me, look, I am just late by 1 day, sir. And he's alleging to, he's giving me a rape threat. Imagine, there was an ex-colleague of mine who had taken it because his 3-year-old son needed a dialysis every week. And during that lockdown, there was no other way because he couldn't go to his friends and families and ask for the money and things like that. So he fell into the vicious cycle of taking loan from one company and then to return it, taking it from the other company and so on. And, at the end, he had taken loan from 45 such apps. Now, coming to these apps are, a quick search on the Play Store will just show you hundreds of such apps, none of them authorized by the RBI, and you just download it. And now the worst thing that they do is they take permission of your contacts and of your gallery. And when you don't repay them, they just start harassing you by messaging each and every contact of yours, telling them, look, you were a guarantor while you were not really actually a guarantor of the victim who had taken the loan. Then they would have they took the photographs from the gallery, they started posting it on Instagram, they started creating WhatsApp groups of the contacts and, trying to defame the person who had taken the loan.
So just to get it straight, essentially, if I am downloading an app on my phone, and it's obviously an unauthorized one, this app, and I sometimes, unfortunately, many of us do have this habit of giving it permission to access whatever is there on my phone, be it contacts, be it my gallery. So they would actually have the contacts of, my relatives, my family and my friends, and they would allege that that particular, a relative or a family is an approver for me, and they would even message them, is it?
Yes, absolutely. Like for the ex-colleague of mine that I'm talking about, I got a WhatsApp message where he told me that you were a guarantor, and then I had to argue with him. I said, I never took a guarantee of this, and this is what you're doing is you have hacked into the phone. He told me, no, I've not hacked. He installed the app and he gave the permission. So, we also now, it's high time, even in your show, several times we have spoken to the viewers also that we need to be very, very mindful about the permissions that we are, we are giving. And even if you even if you have installed it, it's not too late. You can just go back and revoke the permissions. The apps are still going to work, Mubina.
Okay, this is very interesting indeed. Moreover, the RBI, in fact, has also issued an advisory really asking people to be extremely careful about these digital lending apps. It's always best to, go for an app or, to an NBFC that is authorized by the RBI. If you still want to opt for the digital route, there are many apps out there that are approved and authorized by the RBI. So, Ritesh, how do you essentially distinguish, there are so many apps out there, so many Chinese apps as well out there. I'm reading a report about how in Hyderabad as well, unfortunately, there have been cases of suicides, almost 4 suicides, in fact, after there were certain apps that are named over there as well. So how do you distinguish between an app that's properly authorized by the RBI to give loans as opposed to something that's unauthorized? Because it's not like the authorized apps have, RBI authorized branded all over their homepage or anything.
Yeah. So Movina, let's understand one thing. There's nothing like an RBI authorized app. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think so. There is something like that. You need a loan, you speak to your bank, you speak to your, the ones that are like really kind of the well-known ones. So you can just go to your bank app, you can go to all these fintech companies and probably, look about loans over there. There are like those gold loan companies and all, which are also offering something like this. But over here, we need to understand because, the other day I was listening to somebody who said nobody can be charging more than, let's say, 18% as such. It's not a particular percentage he mentioned that beyond this, it's just like illegal. So the moment you're seeing somebody asking you like for 36%, that itself is like a big indicator that, you just cannot take loans. But then also let's understand what was the profile of the people who were looking at. They were not like really of that particular, who would need lakhs of rupees. These were the people who thought these loan companies were more like those friends or like the small kinara shops who could give that udhar, But at such high interest rates, nobody thought about it. And with such harassments also. So anybody because you are asking for what? You're just asking for 3,000, 5,000, maximum 10,000 rupees. Now, these apps were disbursing around this much, or on an average around 10,000 rupees. There were some apps which are giving 50 also, but by and large, they were giving just 10,000 rupees. So, for every 10,000 rupees, you were just getting round about only 6,000 rupees in hand itself is like a red flag. So here are the things, which people don't realize. And it's only once the harassment started, like in Hyderabad, we lost 5 people. The victims, I have 21 victims over the past 3 months who have approached us, and telling us different kind of harassments that they have faced. And it's really, really, I mean, most of them are like in depression. Some of them are suicidal. The RBI needs to, step in, speak to the Google Play Store and the App Store and get down these apps. Of course, they need to work out the ways how the money should be returned. But this is, or it needs to, give them, or it needs to regulate them.
So I think that's a very big red flag that Ritesh, spoke about, that if the interest rate is extremely exorbitant and many of them actually cut interest or charges up front, and, even if, let's say, you've taken a 10,000 rupee loan and you barely get 6 or 5,500 rupees in your hand, that in itself is a red flag. So that should be sort of a warning sign that, look, this does not look to be very, it may not entirely be legal, if you could call it that, essentially. And also, I actually wanted to squeeze in a question, Ritesh. How legal is it for actually these apps to even access somebody's contacts? And was it essentially legal for that app to, Ritesh, directly contact you and ask you, as a guarantor, etc.? Is it legal? Just a quick question over there.
No, I don't think so. It's neither legal nor illegal because, we don't have any such kind of a privacy law in this particular country. We don't have a data protection law. There is an app, the app asks for permission, you are giving it. So in that case, it's kind of legal because you're consenting to it. So there is nothing because in the absence of a data protection law, it kind of becomes legal. If I'm giving you the consent, okay, go ahead and access the way that we all have given access to our microphones and contact and the gallery and the storage and all to different apps. We can't call them illegal. But yeah, the particular person contacting me, again, here we don't have a data protection law as such, and he's just contacted me. There's nothing much even I can do about it.
All right. Well, that, of course, was the conversation that I had with Ritesh Bhatia. He encountered an incident that he himself faced, wherein, he did have a representative of a digital lending app alleging that he himself was, a guarantor of sorts of a loan that a colleague had taken when Ritesh had not done anything of that manner. They had managed to scour through the borrower's contacts. They found Ritesh's name on that, and they started messaging him. These are the kind of tactics that these digital lending apps have been resorting to. If you are a borrower and you notice these apps contacting one of your, your relatives or friends, they can access your contacts because you have given them the permission to do so. So you need to be extremely careful. For now, of course, we have this working group that has been constituted by the RBI. So let's see how, they sort of address this, matter at hand. Well, for now,